the contemporary Buddhijibis, they talk about the book, but they do not read the book. I think the first thing is you should read the book and then talk about it. This is called meta study, meta study. That is, you talk about the book, not in the book. Read the book. So then, this is the caste codified. Because it is codified, anything which gets codified. No. For example, spoken Sanskrit in the Vedic times. Spoken Sanskrit. Panini in his grammar never says I am writing a grammar of Sanskrit. He says I am writing a grammar of Bhasha. Bhasha is from Bhasha, root Bhasha, which means to produce sound. Some people even say to produce sound like a dog. Bhasha. Bhasha. And he says I am writing the grammar of Bhasha and of a chandas, of compositional language. You know, modern linguists make a distinction between the spoken language and written language. That's what he was doing. I am writing the grammar of spoken language and I am writing the grammar of the written language. Compositional. I say compositional because we don't have the notion of writing. Not that the writing was not there, but it was composed. You know. And when you compose, for example, I am now composing, and therefore most of my sentences are complete or nearly complete. But when I am conversing, talking, then sometimes they use only one word, sometimes 3 words, sometimes the verb is missing. So there is a difference. My tone is different. My tone is changing far more now than it does in ordinary speech. So he says I am writing grammar of Bhasha in this. So you are writing a grammar of Bhasha. Now and compositional language. Once you compose, let's say a work or a book from the spoken language, that language becomes codified. That's what I mean codified. Now for example, T.S. Eliot's poetry, Gerontium and this is poetry. Do you think any Englishman in those days spoke that English? No, because no that East London speaker, Cockney speaker, like that flower girl in My Fair Lady, uttered German words or Latin words or French words in his English sentence, like Eliot does. But Eliot's English is Sanskrit English. But that doesn't mean English was not a spoken language. It was a spoken language. There was a Prakrit English. So every language has a Prakrit and a Sanskrit Rupa. So the Prakrit Rupa was Bhasha and Sanskrit Rupa is the Chandas, language of the Vedas, Rig Veda. It's a coded language. It's not as transparent. It's not transparent like the spoken language. It is a Sandhya Bhasha. It is the twilight language. You can get so many meanings from there. In the same way, a system, a societal division which made the society cohere and there was a distribution of labor possible, that system was codified by Manu. Once it became codified, just as the compositional language becomes fixed. In the same way, the spoken language keeps changing, but the compositional language becomes fixed. In the same way, the codified social system became fixed, but the normal system kept on changing. So much so today, You have a Sharma shoe store. Now how can you have a Sharma shoe store or Kapoor chaat bhandar? So the social system has moved, but the codified system has remained. And a codified system, you see, in the case of language, again, one of the things our Buddhijeevis are ignorant of, the spoken Sanskrit kept on changing and the compositional Vedic language became fixed. After a lapse of hundreds or thousand years, the compositional language was no longer understood by people because the spoken language had changed. So Yaska, 9th century BC, he had to write a book, Nirukta, Nirvachana, to explain how the words in the Vedic text, which are no longer understood, how they are to be understood, what is their meaning. He developed a whole science of interpretation. See? In the same way today, we need to interpret the caste system. Interpret the caste system. And remember, you see, the critics of caste system and there have been many, and there are many. Since Lord Buddha, there have been critics of caste system. कुछ बात है कि हस्ती मिटती नहीं इसकी. Why is it that from Buddha to Mahatma Gandhi, everybody finds fault, but your constitution makers consider it necessary to give it a constitutional status? The system. So you have to interpret how, why it is useful. Why it is useful. That's important. Right? And remember, sir, modern critics often say caste is a race, ethnic. It's not. It's not ethnic. Jati nahi hai. There are more than 1,60,000 jatis in India. More than 1,60,000 jatis. But there are only 4 varnas. 4 varnas. All those 1,67,000 jatis, all the 100 crores of Hindus, they all fall into 4 sects. See the cohesive function. How you reduce the multiplicity to progressive through jati, then through varna, right? And Mauryas, knew this. Mauryas knew this. So in Mauryan administration, the king was not free. King had to obey the Sabha, the advisory council. The advisory council was made up of 35%. It was a 35-member advisory council. In that 35 members, 3 were Brahmins, 8 Kshatriyas, 21 traders, Vaishyas, 21, and 3 Shudras. So there were as many Shudras in the Sabha as Brahmins. This is the caste system. And Megasthenes, talks of it will be strange to establish the law of equality and allow inequalities in social intercourse. See, do we have anything remarkable like this in any law, any society?